The Lamiaceae, the mint family, a very well-marked and distinctive family. What features depart from the primitive flower features of FENSH? Well, we have flower parts that are fused, that we definitely have a sympedalous corolla here with 5 petals. Here's one on the top, 2 on the side, and 2 on the bottom, all fused together. We also have bilateral symmetry. Nice left and right halves. The symmetry of these flowers, by the way, is sometimes described as being bilabiate. Notice that it has a distinct lower lip, which is like a landing platform for visiting insects, and an upper lip, and just beneath the upper lip are where the stamens and the stigma are, very strategically positioned to place pollen on the body of the visiting insect and to remove pollen from the visiting insect. But what most distinguishes, but what also distinguishes the mint family is square stems and opposite leaves. Here's a picture of a garden flower that's a type of catnip, and it's very well illustrating the features of the mint family. We see the bilabiate corolla, and we see this visiting insect that's encouraged to orient herself in a way that's conducive to transferring pollen. We also can kind of make out the square stems. Now that I tell you they're square, you can kind of see some angles. And the opposite, well, these are opposite parts of the inflorescence, but the leaves are also opposite. Here's a close-up of the the actual catnip. That's the catnip. And it's a weedy wild plant. You might see it growing along, railroad tracks a lot. And here you can see very clearly the opposite leaves. The leaves of mint family, all of them, I'm not sure about all of them, but all the ones I can think of right now are simple in complexity. They're not divided into leaflets. And they often have a nice fragrance, or a strong fragrance, a minty fragrance, or something also pungent. Another feature that distinguishes the mint family, in addition to the square stems and opposite leaves and the bilabiate corolla, is the fruit. The ovary of the mint family is deeply two-lobed, and each one of the 2 lobes is further divided itself. So what ends up happening is that the ovary is ultimately 4-lobed, and when it's in fruit, the fruit is 4 little nutlets. So if you look inside the calyx of this motherwort in fruit, what we see, this little crosshatch jabberoo, each one of these 4 facets is a tiny little nutlet, and that's the characteristic fruit of the mint family, 4 little nutlets. There are some other families of plants that have a overall growth form and calyx and corolla that look very much like the mint family, but their fruits are capsules, not 4 nutlets. So that's a very distinctive feature of the mint family. The fruit is 4 nutlets. So let's take a look at some flowers and fruits of the mint family. This is a lovely native wildflower called lyre-leaved sage. And on the left it's in flower. Seeing the square stems and the opposite flowers, the leaves are the same way. And then right is a close-up-ish of the fruiting calyx. Look inside the calyx and you see 4 nutlets, the characteristic fruit of the mint family, Lamiaceae. This is a plant called skullcap. The genus is fun to recognize because the calyx, the arrow is pointing to a feature of the calyx that has a little knob or protuberance. And that is a way to recognize the genus Scutularia. And here we can see the opposite leaves, right here. And these flowers with this bilabiate corolla, and you can see the stamens that are ascending under the upper lip of the corolla. A lovely native wildflower. Here's 2 plants that really look an awful lot alike in their overall stature, the size of their flowers, the color of their flowers, even their environment. They grow along sort of damp stream sides in open woods. The one on the left is called hedge nettle, not really a nettle though, and notice that it has a nice prominent upper lip to the corolla, which you'd expect for the Lamiaceae. Here you can see the stamens there. On the right is a fairly common plant called American germander. And even though it's totally a mid with its right number of petals, the upper lip is really, really short. So it's as though it's obsolete. That little petal is so tiny. And so instead of having a prominent roof over the flower, it seems to just have an open space. And with the style there. This is a Teucrium. It's American germander. A lovely streamside wildflower. This is a mint. It's in the genus Mentha, which is also the genus to which, mint, like candy mint, the flavoring comes from. Here the flowers aren't zygomorphic. They're virtually radially symmetric. But, it's the sort of totality of characters, not an individual trait that's off here or there that's going to change the fact that it's in the mint family. Very fragrant, nice square stems and opposite leaves, field mint. Here's a plant called heel-all. It's Prunella vulgaris. Vulgaris means common. One of the things that's interesting about heel-all, well, right off the bat, I don't think it's known to heal a lot of things. I'm not an expert in medicinal plants, but you kind of hear about what plants are used for, and I don't know, I haven't heard of heel-all being used for much. Maybe it was, but it doesn't stand out. Another kind of interesting thing about Prunella is, well, we've noticed that some plants are native that have been here since pre-settlement times, since like time immemorial, and other plants are introduced. They are originated from other parts of the world. Well, we usually describe species as being either native or introduced, but there are some species that have both native and introduced varieties, so that the species can either have individuals that belong to a lineage that's been here for like ever, and a lineage that's been brought over inadvertently or advertently, whatever, more recently. Heel-all has two such varieties, a native variety and a introduced variety. And there's some subtle differences about the shape of the leaf base. I think this is the introduced variety. Heel-all. Here's a lovely native wildflower called hairy woodmint, Blaphilia ciliata. Square stems, opposite leaves. The inflorescence of the mint family, it has kind of a special name. It's called the verticel. The flowers are really, really crowded into clusters, in the axils of sort of small reduced leaves. So it's kind of like a little cross between being a capitulum-like head and sort of a raceme. It's kind of a distinctive mint family feature. And there we see the bilabiate corollas. Lovely flower. This is a plant called obedient plant. And it's very clearly a member of the mint family. Square stems, opposite leaves, bilabiate corolla. And if you were to stare down the throats of some of these at the right time of the year, like a little later than this, maybe, or actually maybe this one here in the middle, you'd see the four nutlets. Obedient plant. It's a entertaining plant because it's called obedient plant because if you were to take one of these blossoms and push it laterally, like push it to the side of the stem, it would stay there, like it's on metal or something. It doesn't bounce back the way you'd expect. That's why it's obedient. This is a lovely native wildflower, very, very fragrant, that grows in prairies. It's called wild bergamot. Lavender flowers, very fragrant, a nice native wildflower. Well, we'll close with the pattern seems to be to show some Gerargi weeds that are in the plant families. There aren't, to my knowledge, any really problem weeds in natural areas in the mint family. There are a lot of lawn weeds or garden weeds or kind of nuisance plants, not environmentally destructive so much. So a fair number of our members of the mint family are non-native. This is one. This is called ground ivy, sometimes called gill over the ground, Glaucoma heteracea. And it's a common one that we can see right around this time of year. So look for this at the edges of lawns and gardens and here and there. Ground ivy. So, taking our cue from Roger Torrey Peterson, look at the icon that Roger Torrey Peterson used for the mint family. Nice. It's a square because of the square stems of the Lamiaceae.